Hello and welcome to Public Affairs Public Access on Houston Media Source TV. I'm Linda Cohn with the League of Women Voters. We come here each month and talk about some element of the civic landscape, voting in elections perhaps, or some important policy issue. This evening, we're going to expand that theme and talk about art, and about how art has from the very beginning of the human experience been part of the way we interpret and memorialize events in public life. Houston artist John Ross Palmer and art impresario Ryan Lindsay join us this evening, and we're going to learn about them, their personal stories, their good work in the community, and about fine art as a magical way to explore the human condition. Please call us with your questions and comments. We'll take as many of your phone calls as possible. The number is 713-807-1794. That's 713-807-1794. If you like to use Twitter, you can reach us with the hashtag LWVHouston. John and Ryan, welcome to you both.
Thank you very much for having us.
Really pleasure to have you this evening. Now, visual arts have always been so important in the development of everything we think of as uniquely American. Certain images become iconic. They're embedded in our collective soul, and we don't have to show you the pictures for you to conjure up the images. The Trumbull painting of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson presenting the work of his committee to John Hancock as president of the Continental Congress. The Emanuel Lights picture of Washington crossing the Delaware. You all know what I'm talking about now?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The sculpture of Lincoln sitting in his temple on the Potomac, right?
Absolutely, for sure.
Norman Rockwell and the Four Freedoms. The most famous of those posters is probably the Thanksgiving Day feast.
And a couple Boy Scout ones are pretty famous.
And a couple of Boy Scout ones, indeed. You know, we don't have to show you the slides. We just don't. You know what I'm talking about. By the way, historians love to argue about the accuracy inherent in any of those particular paintings or sculptures, but we'll leave that as it is. Many of us who aren't historians would say, well, they serve a higher truth. Mm-hmm. John and Ryan, you've embraced the synergy of art and civics by naming the League of Women Voters as your charity of the year. Correct. For 2014. We are thrilled for the recognition because in addition to creating a very nice monetary endowment, you've also created art that reflects on some very leaguish themes. The signature piece is American Riposte. It's an eye-catching showstopper first, but then as the eye lingers, you know, your folio description talks about the blocks of colors, the red, white, and blue being separate and yet combining to form the unity that is America. Mm-hmm. When I got to tell you this, there's the picture right there if you look at it on the screen. When our graphics designer looked at it, her eye went directly to that surprising bit of orange off on the side. It was like an unexpected quirk bubbling up in a very American sort of way. I look at American Riposte and the brush strokes take over for me. What I see is a barely contained explosion of energy, a dynamic America on the move. Tell me about what you were thinking when you created American Riposte.
Well, as you mentioned, of course, there were many important components, the colors of our country, red, white, and blue, but also the movement of the brushstrokes. But deeper beyond just the color, if you look, there's all the layers that are the foundation of it, kind of the foundation of anything. It's the foundation that takes forever, and then the color doesn't take long. You build your house, the foundation takes forever to build, and then the framing goes up fast. So on that painting, there's a lot of layers that were done before the color was even added. And one thing that you mentioned about the orange, which I love, is that's really the focus, because I believe with abstract art, for some people, you need to have something for them to start feeding around the piece. So I wanted to have that to be like the nucleus, the focus of the piece, so people can feel good and start there, then move away to the other parts of it, the brushstrokes, the colors, why they're separated. But I just wanted to do a piece for the league and for the attention brought to the league of a piece that was really dynamic and powerful and important.
How much of it did you see in your mind's eye before you began work on it?
None. I believe it's so emotional, and my work is really expressionistic. And so it's kind of, at the beginning, mentioning these iconic pieces of art in American history. You don't need to see them. You feel them. It's emotion. And the same thing is for my art. I don't want to conceive it too much in the beginning because it limits maybe what might happen. So I have a feeling about it. I have a feeling about the connection with the league and what I wanted to try to do to bring attention to the charity of the year. And so that allows me to really create with no boundaries. So not much. I just had a foundation in my head. I want to do a really powerful piece of art and bring in some American elements, like the colors. But that was it.
Do you have music playing in the background?
Oh, it's kind of funny. Ryan jokes about it, that a lot of outside noise bothers me.
Yeah.
Unless it's my noise. So, yes, I always had to have some kind of music, and it kind of keeps me in that space.
That emotional connection bubbles up music in the same way that it does in the visual art.
Absolutely. The 4th of July is coming up, and I love hearing American music, and whenever that's playing in my studio, I always stop and just listen to that song and think about the importance of what our country's about and voting and the rights that we have. So music is a very important part, and I could go extreme to heavier to lighter, so it's not any particular music, but I like to definitely have a feeling of music when I'm painting. Sousa
can be your soundtrack.
For sure, yeah.
Ryan, tell us more about your Charity of the Year program. It's in its 4th year?
Yes, the League is our 4th Charity of the Year we've selected. And I'll try to give a bit of a summary. I moved into John and I have been together personally for 11 years, but now a little more than 5 in business. And I quit my law practice and joined the business, and one of the aspects I took over was charitable giving. And what happened was I was receiving literally hundreds of requests per year from various nonprofits all over the city of Houston. Will you donate to our silent auction? Will you donate to our silent auction?
They're looking for a piece of artwork.
Yes, because he's been so generous in his career, he's on their list. And I took it as my obligation to respond very politely. I'm sorry, we can't do, there's so many collectors in Houston that have paid high dollar for his pieces, to then see it weekend after weekend at auction price is inappropriate at the level of his career he'd gotten. So I did a few things. Number one, I asked people to fill out our form if they wanted a donation. That cut donation requests by 90%. They just didn't want to. They just wanted to send us the form and have an artist give their hard work to them. Then I said, well, wait a minute. Let's take it a step further. Let's partner with a nonprofit that we really believe in their mission. A key mission that we try to select when we're doing our charity is empowerment, because he believes in empowering artists. The League believes in empowering voters.
Yeah, that was the
with
confluence.
Knowledge.
That is the confluence.
And so when we've done this, it helps the nonprofit a great deal, and it helps our business. When we've partnered with the League, yes, the League has benefited financially because money we've given and attention. We've hosted an event for them. We'll host another. We're going to host the Rising Stars again. But look at what you've done so much for us. You've put his painting now on a TV program.
It's a sense of community. It's a sense of community.
It's a win-win, yes. Rather than just a singular donation to a charity.
And you're helping some very worthy causes. Your first charity was what?
Our first was Outreach United. It's a group of gentlemen run a nonprofit that support local GLBT nonprofits. They fundraise, and then they give out to nonprofits in need. The next year was Heifer International. So they empower people by teaching them to grow their own food and grow their own animals. It's a global organization. And the next was Writers in the School last year. And they empower kids in our city through reading and writing.
And then the League of Women Voters.
And this year, the League of Women Voters, who educates our community on it's nonpartisan, but they
Yes.
educate the people on the candidates and actually register people to vote. And I don't know what can be more empowering than that.
It is a very basic and fundamental way for democracy to work. Let me ask you, John, do you create a series of artwork based on each of those charities, or did the League just get lucky?
I definitely, part of the relationship is, and the importance of having the relationship is, I do a piece of art for the charity. In previous years, I've done the same thing. That way, it's really customized for their needs and for their attention.
Yeah, because your League of Women Voters series, well, American Riposte is the signature piece, but there were others in this series that celebrated women.
Absolutely.
And the franchise.
Yes, well, we've gotten more sophisticated and more fine-tuned with how we do it. And in the beginning, I know we didn't do a feature piece and then a whole series or body of work. Now we're doing more because we're seeing the relationship being more intense and more important if we do more and give more on our side. And so this year, there's the whole series of pieces that related to the organization.
Yeah, and after doing the study that you do before you designate your charity, I imagine you're eager to get out there and to use your artistic talents, your artistic voice, to express what you've learned about that organization and its good works. Or at least we flatter ourselves to think that's the case.
Well, it is the case, and also kind of in mentorship that we do, we don't want to ever change somebody's essence or how they paint. We just want their voice to be louder and more people to hear. And so that's kind of the philosophy we take also with the nonprofits that we partner with. We just want to get them out there more. And so by art,
and in a
it's
very
more emotional.
unique way. In a
very unique
way.
And
you're not passing out flyers. You're not taking an ad that said something like, oh, I don't know, contribute here because we really need to do this or that. You're actually connecting. You mentioned it at the very beginning on an emotional level.
Now, I won't hand out things like that unless it has the American Repast on it. Then we'll hand that out. It's almost like talking about Hancock earlier on, the signatures of people in the day when you really used to write well because we would train our whole lifetime to do it. Now, after we learn it, we stop using it, we type. But how beautiful signatures were and just how beautiful people's writing is. And I know if I do an invitation for an event now, I like to hand write it before we print it because I think that resonates with people more intimately than type. Type fonts. Yeah.
The human connection, as always. Well, we jumped right into the territory that brought the League of Women Voters and you guys together. So let's backtrack a bit, John, and ask you something about yourself. You're a Texan, a fifth-generation status.
That's right, yeah.
Both sides of the family?
No, just one.
Just one. When did the Palmers first come to Texas, and where did they come from?
I'm not real sure, because I don't want to say anything wrong on that side, but they settled in Austin. My great-grandfather, so it does go, a couple of generations on that side, but Swedish descent, and then the other side was Canadian from my mom's side. So I'm not sure exactly all the, I know it goes back to Alabama for the sixth generation, and then it gets into Texas, so I'm just very proud of that, and also fourth-generation Houstonian, because so many people come to Houston because I think it's such a great city. And, I love it so much, and Ryan loves it so much. He went to law school here, too.
One of the founding families, I think, of Houston at that stage.
Do
you have any family lore? Do you know why they came? Was it opportunity? Was it land? Were they running away from something?
I'm not sure what brought them here.
Okay.
So I wish I knew how to answer that better, but I just think that Texas is we hear about it all the time. It's such a great state and opportunities and stuff. So maybe they just knew that a long time ago.
Always was.
It was going to be
Always
good.
was.
There's a really romantic part of his family, his history. His maternal grandfather went to med school in Canada, and that's where he fell in love with his grandmother. And so that's what brought the Canadian roots down to Houston, because when he finished at McGill in Canada, he moved back to his
Couldn't stand the
hometown
weather, I bet.
of Houston. She couldn't stand it.
The heat, the humidity.
No, she couldn't stand it. But there's, his mom didn't share a lot in his childhood about these stories of these Canadian, they were actually really quite successful businessmen that his grandmother's lineage came from, the Ross family. That's where he gets his middle name, Ross. And in his adulthood, in the last 4 or 5 years, he's just discovered all these things with her, and he's shared all this she's shared a lot of information with him that has appeared in his artwork, because it's very inspiring to him.
So your family history crops up in places that we should be alert to when we're looking at your art?
Oh, for sure. I think that's what's so beautiful about doing or being an artist full time, is doing research on the family as part of my work. You know, because I think is more authentic you can stay as yourself when you create, the more it's going to resonate with other people. And so
it is deeply personal, and the more you learn about yourself, the more you're able to give to others, I am sure.
My sister Charlotte, she lives in Arizona. She said to me one day when we were talking that, John, you're just very authentic. And I never thought about that before. And I love that thought, because the more authentic you are, the more you are who you are. And by being an artist, I feel like I've never grown up. I've just always been an artist, and I was always afraid of having to get a job and only a 2-week vacation. Well, that didn't happen.
But you were a high school football player.
Absolutely, yes, that's correct. A-Leaf.
Football ever seep into your art?
No, I don't.
Because that's kind of like a hand-to-hand combat sort of sport.
Yeah, it's not, but maybe you're stimulating something in me. Now we'll see football. But you do see the number 5'2" quite often in my art, and that is my high school football number. And so I've just kept that number, and so you'll see it every so often in my work.
I feel like I've been inducted into a secret society. We have a phone caller. Welcome, caller. Did you have a question for John Ross Palmer?
Hi, this is Scotty Hilton over in Richmond, Texas. Just wondering, John, do you ever combine your beautiful abstract designs with elements of modern graffiti?
Hey, Scott, good to hear from you. That's so great. It's a collector. So do I combine graffiti with, say it one more time?
Your art.
I say for sure yes, and a big part of learning about that was we did our study abroad last year in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and graffiti is a very high-level art form there, and people are very revered by their graffiti. And if you have an area that's your graffiti, you don't graffiti over that graffiti. I mean, it's a tier system there of higher-level art, but it's all graffiti. And I do use enamels and spray paints. I have for a while, and I do even more so now after being in Sao Paulo. But I believe the rawness of the graffiti, I mean, I know graffiti is illegal when you do graffiti, but it's an art form, and there's some beautiful flair to it in the way they use text, when you see it displayed. So yes, I think for sure I integrate a lot of that rawness. I'm doing a sophisticated commission now. It's landscape, but I'm doing spray paint as the first layer because it's just this raw kind of strokes of the spray paint that you really won't see.
Let me ask you, let me continue with this theme. Graffiti has traditionally been used as political statements.
For sure.
Does your graffiti-infused art have political overtones, undertones?
I don't believe it does. We never know how we're going to change or evolve or want to have other meanings in art. When Ryan and I first started working together, I really didn't title a lot of my art because I just wanted to be just the feeling. And so now some have titles and some are just in series titles. So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I can't say 20 years from now we won't have some political view and want to do art themed around that.
Yeah, well, think of Guernica, for goodness sake. Probably the most powerful political statement transferred to art in the 20th century.
For sure.
I would say what he has just described is very accurate in terms of his initial motivation when he is using some form of spray paint or graffiti combined in his art. But hindsight is very powerful. This experience he had in Brazil, where he mentioned, he forgot one thing. He actually created a 40-foot-long graffiti mural in a very high-end part of town.
Could you define graffiti? I'm thinking graffiti as being very large, very
yes.
broad stroke, done very quickly in the middle of the night before you get locked up.
All that is true, except
all those stereotypes are correct,
Yeah.
except for in Sao Paulo and a lot of places in the world, it is a true elevated form of art where they're famous.
Does it have to be displayed in a particular way to be considered graffiti?
I think outside.
Public.
And I think it needs to be
Public
like installed. It can't be a canvas, or it has to be on a structure, I believe.
And so he created this gorgeous mural that is his a typical escapism style with some vibrant colors and lots of black dots here and there. And when I look back at that, he was just creating a mural, but it was such a political statement related to freedom, in my opinion. When we were in Sao Paulo, that's when those massive protests were taking place. There was rioting in the streets right outside our flat every single night. And so I can look back and see this American man coming to this country and having the ultimate freedom in this really glamorous neighborhood to do his free expression of art. So when I look back, I do think there is political relevance, although at the time, I'm not thinking, hey, look at the political statement we're making here. It just, it fits in with the whole history of the trip and what actually happened while we were there.
You know, I can go ahead and argue, perhaps not very successfully, but I can go ahead and argue that everything has a political element, because the political landscape, the civic landscape, is where every element of our life plays out.
Could I just make one more statement involving like a potential political statement? You know, I don't get involved. I'm not an artist. I handle the business, and I'm his promoter, and I'd like to think of myself as kind of his chief historian. I like to tell the stories about what he's done. So when he created American Repast, I said, well, the league colors are red, white, and blue. I mean, that's the direction I gave him. And so then he creates this. Now, I've had people tell me, you know, this is their political spin on what they're seeing. They see a majority red with a minority blue, and the blue trying to take over the red, as is a current political effort.
Oh, what we
in
bring,
Texas.
our own dirty lenses.
Isn't that right? Yeah.
And a lot of women, the orange dot to a lot of women represents the Wendy Davis, you know, the Wear All Orange up in Austin movement, and that's their favorite part because it signifies women's rights.
Yeah.
And I can't take credit for that.
I've never heard that about the orange dot before.
People have said that's what they see. And so when you say all art can be political, I can't disagree with that statement.
May I say one thing about that too is I believe really good abstract art, you get something that we know and you break it down to its raw elements and you put it in abstract form as a canvas like that. That's an abstract painting.
Sure.
And what I think it really does, if it's done well, is it pulls out what's inside of you. So if somebody looks at my paintings one time and said, oh, I see a dead person, I'm like, well, you see that. I didn't paint that, but you're pulling out what is for you. And so that's what I think is important about this piece. And again, I didn't even know about the orange dot, that some people interpret that, but that's what they're seeing. And somebody else might see something totally different in that same piece.
And haven't you just defined a classic? Whether it's in literature or in art, the idea is that every time you go back to it, and that's why you reread classics, and that's why you pass it on to the next generation. Every time you approach it with your contemporary life, with your life experiences, as various as they are, and something new. It speaks to you in a new way, in a fresh way.
Absolutely.
It never gets old.
And I do believe, again, about abstract art. Every time you see it, as your life changes, the painting will change. Because it's mysterious within the layers of, and that's why I think I really like the abstract, is because it's always going to be something different for you as you become different, because we're all different than when we're born. We have experiences, we have traumas, we have tragedies, we have beautiful things, we have celebrations. We meet people, we lose people, we gain people, and all that's going to season us to become deeper, better people, but we're going to see things differently too.
And art allows you to explore
Absolutely.
your own progression through life.
Yes.
In a very, very personal way, even though art is presented in a public way.
Because how many thoughts are personal, they don't share, but they're in there.
Let me go back to the young John Palmer again. Did you always want to be an artist?
I always wanted to be an artist, and I remember being in elementary school, learning from the teacher that you cannot be successful. Your art is not cherished until you're dead. I mean, so
That's kind of a grim
especially
appraisal.
7, 8 years old, because you know our minds work differently when we're 40 than when we're 8, and you receive things
So
differently.
you're 7, 8 years old, and you're sitting there with your
Well, I'm not going to be an
paper
artist
and your
now.
Crayola.
Well, this
You're
is fine, but it's never going to be a living because I've already been taught it's not going to work.
And maybe you should become a CPA or something just in case.
Absolutely. And so that was in the back of my head, and I always loved to draw. I'm left-handed, and I always thought I could draw better because I'm left-handed. I thought it was all about, I'd tell the other students that couldn't draw well, well, if you use your left hand, you can draw good like me, because if I use my right hand, well, I can't draw pretty either. It's because muscle tone. But that's the understanding of a child. And so it's always been something inside of me and reinforced by my mom and family to be creative and do art. But I never thought it would be for a living. Oh, never, never. And
Did you study art formally in school?
no, just general high school and college general business to get like a business degree.
Did you seek out art classes that may have been offered at a community center? Or
No.
did you watch Paint by Number on television? Or
Painfully, I was the only one to watch, so I did.
oh,
No, just because it was very realistic. I like the abstract form. But it was always inside of me, and I always loved the creativeness and the creative outlet of things, but I never thought it would be a living, for sure. And all that changed when my father passed away.
yeah.
And
tell
I
me about that.
decided, well,
That was kind of unexpected.
Oh, it
and
was
a
horrible.
Terrible shock. How old were you?
24, talking to him like we're talking now. The next day, he's gone. And the tragedy of all that, I just remember thinking, life will never be normal. I'll never recover. I'll never develop a relationship with somebody else ever again. I'll never be vulnerable. I'll never experience this. And it was so bad, and it was about a month into that, and it was so horrible that I decided I'm just going to quit school. I'm going to get my $600 out of the bank. I had $631 in the account, I think, and went to an art supply store, bought canvases, and said, I'm going to paint, and I'm going to make it work. And did 10 paintings and had a show and sold a couple, and it just started and kept going. But then I thought, well, this is not going to last. These are just friends buying it. Well, of course they're friends buying it because that's all you know at first, and then you get exposed. And I remember asking my mom, well, what's going to happen when the art quits selling? And my mom said, well, you'll come up with something even better to do. So that allowed me to let it go and just keep creating, and it's worked. Instead of things you fear, you attract, and so I was able to let it go that it was not going to work.
Thinking about those pieces that you did in the throes of your father's death, was there anger? Was there sadness?
No.
Or was it just an impetus to say, I'm going to do what I was meant to do?
I think for me, I decided, I believe my father struggled his whole life with different things, that I was not going to struggle.
Do you think he never had an opportunity, because he was a young man when he passed? Do you think he never had the opportunity, or maybe deferred what he wanted to do until a time when?
Oh, that was definitely his. You know, tomorrow, we're going to figure it out tomorrow, and it's going to be good, but we're going to do it tomorrow, and you know.
And his
it was never
example
tomorrow.
made you think of today more than tomorrow.
Yeah, because
Is that what it was?
he did traditional. Went to University of Texas, got a degree. You know, the success we see, you know, which is, I think it's very important to get an education. For me, I wasn't a good student, so it wasn't my path to do. And I also decided I just did not want to go through my whole life struggling like he did. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do what I love, not worried about, because if I wanted to do some kind of career to make money, I definitely wouldn't have gone into painting. paintings. I would have done a lot of other things.
Not a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
But your mother supported you, and that part was good.
Absolutely. She's an artist herself and always been creative. But also, with Ryan's 5 years into the business, has really elevated everything we're doing, and has just brought it to another plateau.
Mm-hmm. When did escapism emerge? Was it this the time that escapism emerged?
It was always there. Ryan made it professional or made it official.
So describe the movement that you
founded
founded together. It's called escapism.
That's right.
And it's a bona fide art movement.
Yes.
As much as Impressionism is, or any of the other things.
I would say so. You know, when you get his name up and the public forum of Wikipedia, which is very, very hard to do for a living artist, and they describe him as being the founder of escapism, that just about sealed it for me, that this is this is real. You know, we've been talking about it for years and years, but now that it's recognized in such an authentic way, I do believe it's
the Wikipedia
it's
endorsement. And this is a subset. Escapism is a subset of abstract art. Is that correct? Or is it something entirely different?
I would say,
how do you feel?
There's a couple things I need to tell you about escapism. Number one, he came out with a book in 2004 called Escapism, and it really was named after his primary style of artwork. So at first, it was an art style where John used colorful, confident brushstrokes. They were abstract pieces, and then he used a realistic trigger to help ease the viewer into the world of abstract. If you look at some of his pieces, those early pieces, you'll see an arrow or a cloud or a numeral. And so that is the original definition of escapism. When he started then getting all these questions about how are you doing that? You know, you'd been a professional artist for 11 or so years. You know, how are you owning a house and being an artist, and that's all you're doing? You know, how are you making this work? He wanted to give back and started the Escapist Mentorship Program. And that's when we really formalized the art movement of escapism, which was aimed to forever destroy the stereotype of the struggling artist. So the overall escapism art movement is about artist empowerment, not having to follow the traditional art establishment guidelines, and truly being the author of your own destiny, that you can sell your own artwork. You don't have to be beholden to others. You know, I don't know, I'm sure artists in history have had this idea before. I don't think we're truly original in this mindset of artists breaking free and being successful, but we are formalizing it, I believe.
Okay, so the movement combines both a style of artwork and a philosophy?
These days, when we speak of escapism, it's mainly the philosophy. But the art style remains and is historic. And I do think dovetails well with the movement. You know, anti art establishments. You know, he wants to make it easy for the viewer. He doesn't want to make abstract art confusing or hard or difficult to accept. He wants to give you a little piece in there that'll allow you, even if you're not a lifelong art connoisseur or highly educated in the field of art, you can love it because you can get sucked in and connected to it.
Yeah, you kind of bypass the critics then. This is artist to viewer.
What?
Okay, talk about that. I think that's a very powerful statement.
And
you've had good critical reviews. You're not sour grapes here.
Well, the thing is people can say good or bad, but I've tried to work on my life to not give my value or our value to what people say, because that just gives such unknown and power to so many things that are out of your control. And what we do to the core is good. We try to empower people and to honor collectors and to do good art and to do good business by the collectors and to build a career for them to be excited about it. There was an article that came out a long time ago. It was in a big magazine, whatever, and I was so excited to get it off the shelf, you know, and it's this big glossy magazine, and it's like several pages long, and I'm reading it in the car, and I'm so excited, and then I get to the end of the article, and it says, well, he's like a wild elephant painting, whatever, you know, that's what I think of his type of art. And it crushed me. And I told Ryan about it, and Ryan's like, this is the most exciting thing ever. Someone saying something. Yeah. And I had lunch with a friend 2 days later, someone I respect very much, and I told him about it, and he said, I liked you before, now I love you. Because when people are throwing arrows, they're doing it for a reason, because you're standing up and doing things.
Powerful.
So from that, those things don't.
You're part of a conversation.
Yeah,
you're significant.
That's right. When they quit talking about you, you need to worry, you know.
We have a phone call. Ready to take another call?
Sure.
Caller, what's your question?
Hi, this is Sarah Shimmer, longtime friend and recent collector. And I had a couple of comments and a couple of questions. Number one, I love your use of social media and your 52 project and how you engage the public and ask them to provide some inspiration. I love that. And then I also love your purses and your jewelry, and was wondering how you went from creating canvases to kind of segueing into those lines as well.
Thanks, Sarah.
You want to talk about just inspiration?
Can I just respond about I'd like you to talk about your evolution into the different media, but our 52 project, Linda, that our caller, Sarah, is a friend and has supported. I will, you know, now I'm looking in hindsight of what we're doing. We always like to have an annual project. We've done commission projects in the past where he's done portraits of people or portraits of animals, actually. And this year, after being inspired from a couple of other local artists, William H. Miller and Sue Donaldson, who did a daily painting project, I thought, let's try to do a weekly painting project. And so we named it the 52 Project.
52, here it comes again.
After his favorite number.
52 weeks in the year, it comes again. 52
weeks in the year. And another thing that I do believe is quite novel about it is it's very virtual. It goes through, on Friday, I submit a request for suggestions. Anybody in the world can leave comments. Saturday morning, I take him the list. He picks one, and then by Monday morning, I release it via email, and then Tuesday, I release it.
You guys are not cloistered, are you?
I release it online. And
you should have seen the first 2 weeks of doing this. I'm like, this is not going to work.
We're doing.
I mean, it was so much pressure.
No, so there's pressure. He's growing as an artist because he has to go with new subject matter each week, but also a time constraint. But people are really catching on, and it's doing very well. But it's getting so much of our success is engagement and getting people constantly involved and hearing their input. And when you don't have to have ever bought one piece of art, but hey, you gave the suggestion that inspired this glorious painting, and it gives people the best feeling to be involved.
Yeah. So even a clod like me can do something that has artistic presence, can contribute to the artistic presence.
Have a lasting historical impact, yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other end of the art world a little bit, the collector's side of things. What motivates a collector? Is it a passion for the school? Is it a passion for the particular artist? Is it part of a portfolio that you hope will appreciate and value? What motivates a collector to seek out an artist and to have some of that artist's work always available in their own home?
Well, I think when I was younger, I loved interacting with people and being creative and doing things, and I always thought to myself, this is before I ever thought I would be an artist full time. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to give people a piece of me, you know, like I want to be able to share myself with people because I just enjoy the interaction and how we grow when we're around people. Mm-hmm. And then so the art kind of developed, and so what's so stimulating for me about that is I'm able to entertain people. I'm able to give them something they can keep, you know, not just interacting with me, but a piece of art, because my job is to stimulate.
And it makes a difference whether that art ultimately resides in your studio or in somebody's private collection. It makes a difference to you.
Well, it has to get out of the house. It has to get out of the studio. It has to go to a home, because I believe that's when the cycle's complete, when somebody loves it. Because I think somebody who I knew that was a big developer said somebody told him he can't fall in love with sticks and stones, meaning he can't fall in love with the homes or buildings he builds. He has to sell them. And so for me, it was the same thing. I can't fall in love with the pieces so much that I can't let them go because it doesn't open up the sieve, the cycle for me to create more, because if I'm sitting on top of all these piles of art that I can't let go, I think that's frustrating for an artist, you know. So I love when somebody loves it and it moves on to somebody's home. And again, it's my job to keep people interested. If somebody comes to the studio and they're bored, that's my fault.
It's kind of like the threshold between an amateur and an artist with a capital A, italics, boldface, all that other stuff, doing it for your own pleasure versus doing it for the community. Do you have that sense? What do you feel when someone like Sarah Schimmer wears your art in a purse? When you see it walking down the street, what do you feel when you see that? Is that part of that cycle coming full?
Oh, it's like, oh, it's working. You know, there it is. And because she asked also about how we did this other merchandise. Well, that happened with getting other items that people have used and recycling them, making them new again. And so artists in the program work on this merchandise with me. Because I really focus on the paintings, that's my thing. But the merchandise stuff is branded through the studio, and it helps the program get attention, and it also brings some dollars into the program, and it also gives the artists.
And it gives your mentorees an opportunity to.
Sure, because I also want to teach them too that they need to do their fine art and keep that very separate from maybe something else they might do that might be more available to public, you know, in a lower price point, but to defer it off of them, you know, have other people help do it, so it's a community thing, and that's why your values go up in your art, and then you can also have this other.
Can I add just one thing?
Please.
It was also, to be very honest, a symptom of economic necessity. You know, the year I joined the business also was when the U.S. economy really went south. And paintings had been selling, thousands of dollars of paintings had been selling off the wall, and then they just weren't. And we didn't think our business would be affected that way, but it was. We were fortunate to be in Houston, Texas, where our economy did not suffer like the rest of the country. However, a lot of our exterior income from galleries in Chicago or New York, they closed.
Zero.
They went to zero. So one answer was, rather than just being stuck trying to sell these thousands of dollar paintings, let's create some items that are beautiful and artistic and don't diminish your name value with fine art that are $200 or a lesser amount. You know, we just, we had to grow and learn.
It's kind of like some designers, I think, that have been successful. They have the couture line, and then they also have things that are made to wear.
Ready to wear,
Yeah, ready to wear. And so by doing this, it has diversified what we do, and it also helps to teach that to other artists through the program, because it's more about the philosophy and being organized and being successful, to have other things that you can offer.
Who's the typical young artist that you take under your wing? There is an application process, is there not?
Yeah. What's the question?
Yeah,
let Ryan.
Go ahead, Ryan.
There is nothing typical about the artists. I mean,
they hear about your program, maybe through their schools?
Or mainly online. I think is the most popular avenue is through
all over the world
working on Facebook. Or
so you don't get many university students who are taking an art course or something?
No. The common thread of people that apply to the Escapist program is drive and wanting to grow.
Paralleling the career of someone else that we've been speaking to this evening.
Correct.
That's alive and doing it, not talking about it, but doing it.
And truly is there with them. He's also hosting parties. He's also going places trying to sell his artwork. So the common thread is drive and ambition.
And you don't have to, you're taking the starving out of starving artists.
That's our
goal. The
goal.
romance of the starving artist is not something that many people can
Because how romantic is it when you have no money? No roses and flowers.
However, the members who have been accepted, they are all different ages, all different ethnic backgrounds, male, female.
Are
had
different points in their journey as an
Sure.
artist themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not just new and emerging artists. You may have people who've been puttering for a
One
while.
of our 2011 Nubia Gala Seibert had been a professional artist for 35 years, and in many classic definitions of an artist, had more accolades than John ever had.
Well, I'm going to guess they learn a lot just by hanging out with you guys.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
I hope so.
we
And
mentor,
it's a
and also I think learning by example. They come to our events, they see how we operate and just cater and put our clients in it's the ultimate level of customer service, and they watch that.
Do you ever critique their work? Do you ever give them assignments?
If they ask, assignments, yes.
Assignments, yes.
What is the sort of assignment a young artist would get?
Well, we've gotten a little bit
Or an
better
older
at that.
artist.
We've had more this year. Early on, as every year gets a little bit better, there was not really organized
Is
assignments.
this a curriculum that you've developed? Or
Well,
is
Ryan
it ad
has.
hoc?
I'm an Eagle Scout.
Yes?
And you'd get merit badges for accomplishments, in scouting. And so we thought about doing some kind of a medallion for different achievements within
No,
the
Eagle Scouting is a highly rigorous program.
Absolutely.
It's not for sissies.
That's
You're bringing
right.
that to the art world?
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to, with Ryan's help. But
Spoken like a slightly frustrated teacher, I should say.
but we have gotten better about the assignments. I don't know if you're.
Well, each year the program, as it grows, it gets a little bit more formal to add prestige to it. 4 years ago, it was awesome and cool when you'd say, I graduated from the Escapist program. Well, now this year, these graduates, when they say, I've graduated as an Escapist, they've truly graduated because they have to complete these 10 assignments based on 10 different spheres of the art world that we've designated: sales, philanthropy, mechanics.
Find a chair of the year.
Yes, but there's 10 different ones, and they're not coming to me immediately. But yeah, they
Do you have dropouts?
we had one last year. We had one dropout last year, but
Poor kid.
we filled the slot immediately by the person
Sure.
who had scored next highest in the jury process, and it was we made lemonade out of lemons. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Because with somebody's in, because the philosophy of what we do is once an escapist, always an escapist. You have 1 year of intensity that we work with you rigorously, and we'll stop anything we're doing to help you. And after you graduate, then you're always going to be a part. We're always going to help you. We're always going to be there. If you need Ryan to look at a contract or review something as an attorney, done. So it's ongoing. And so I think in this world, it's so easy to walk away from things that are not working maybe as you want them to. And so you turn away and leave. And so we want to have a supportive network to where things might not always be perfect, but we're always going to be there for you forever. And we want to always be supportive of you, even when things don't go maybe as you want them to, or we're in a crossroads with people that have graduated. Let's work it out. Let's make it like a family, a support system, to where we don't always have to agree, but we're always going to be there.
Ryan, talk about the Houston climate as being conducive to art because the economy is so sound.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there about Houston that makes the art scene so lively, so vibrant, and that allows you to do the work that you're doing?
We are the most diverse city in the country. And I think diversity adds so much captivation to the world of art. It's not going to be, there's so many varieties that are brought when you have different ethnicities and different types of people involved. So a lot of our artists have Hispanic background, or, I think that's what makes art in Houston so special and so captivating. I mean, the economic side and having financial resources to support things that are non-essential, like, you don't have to go to the ballet. You have to eat, you have to have housing. Art that we sell is a luxury good, and it's hard to sell luxury goods unless there's financial support and backers. And so Houston has been extremely wise in promoting all major forms of the artwork and not making it just about the Museum of Fine Art, but also our world-class ballet, our world-class opera, all types of art form are welcome in Houston, and that's a wonderful, wonderful surprise to a lot of people when they visit Houston. They see this isn't about cowboys. These guys have a major, major art scene.
Can we take a moment to have a look at some of your artwork?
Sure.
And if you can do a quick description. This is art that resides in various personal collections around town. We'll see if we can get it queued up.
Oh, that's great. Let's see.
And some of my absolute... All right, well, we'll take a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you the philosophical question of the day. In evaluating art, is it fair to separate the art from the artist?
Is it fair to separate the...
Yeah. Should a Picasso or a Diego Rivera, for example, be evaluated because you know something about the people who created it, or should you come to it with a virginal interpretation? Just
You
the
can't
artwork
separate.
and
It
what-
has to be about the artist, I think. I think it has to be about their life and what they've experienced, I think.
And you should know something about that. You think,
I think it makes it more interesting. One thing that Ryan's really taught me when we have the exhibits now is the more they know about the piece, and if we could do a write-up or explanation, or we'd do a study abroad every year, and to have that story about driving cross country for 3 weeks in France and Italy, I think that makes the piece more interesting to know that's the inspiration behind it.
and you,
Two of us in a car, you know, like
it
going
certainly
the wrong
makes
way
for
down a one-way
a more richer interpretation. Do you have-
richer.
I have a strong opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
I truly consider it one of the major facets of my job is to connect him in a specific story to each of these series or pieces of art. I think it adds immense value.
But it doesn't cross
to
over
them.
into illustration. It's not illustration. It's art. It's interpretive art.
But I
Even though-
respect, you know, okay, one of our elements of business is dealing with designers, and they like to fit art into a setting and make it go with the couch and the rug. And they kind of could care less about my story of John creating this in Buenos Aires, and he was sick and all these things. You know, if they just love the aesthetic value of it, that's their
Do
So
people
that's
come
their
with you with a
option.
proposal for a commission that says, I need something in cobalt blue?
Absolutely.
But see, I
Sure.
think
Yeah,
too
they
with
do.
commissions, there's things that I won't compromise my soul in art, but I don't know it all. And if you come to me and say, okay, I am really inspired by the oil rigs in Texas, and so I want a painting about oil rigs. Well, I don't know much about that maybe, so I'm going to study and learn, and I'm going to become better and more diversified if I do the commission for you. Because I don't believe some artists are channeling from divine and they know it all. Well, you're dead if you believe that. If you don't learn from it.
There's nothing there's no whiff of the pedestal about you, John.
How
You're
wide
not.
is that?
You're not. You're not. There's nothing didactic. You're not telling us what we should think. You're not telling us what we being the general public,
Right.
should admire.
I want to know what you think. I want to
Yeah.
put your essence
Yeah.
into
It's
it because
about
you're
Yeah.
unique. And
It's
It's
collector
almost like
empowerment.
Yeah, it's a collaboration almost.
Sure.
Yes.
Tell us about what we see on the screen now. This is a piece of artwork.
oh, this is one of the really special. This is Sao Paulo, Brazil, from last year. And what was really powerful about this piece to me is we were at this building. It was like a 30-story building, and nobody wanted to live in the high rise. They were afraid. And so the developer built a palace on top of the 30 stories and moved in. I mean, a palace built on top, and then the whole building filled out, and people moved in. And what we're doing is we're walking from the ballroom. I mean, you have to see, you couldn't even believe this. So we're walking from the ballroom to the main house, and that's Ryan walking in front of me. That's his silhouette from the back. But it seemed very regal and presidential to me. It reminds me, when you see the president walking by himself, like from the White House to the Oval Office. There's a walk he does every day through like the Rose Garden or whatever. And so that's what reminded me that image of Ryan. And then to the bottom left is the gallery we have now that was built. That was the wood model that the architect made for the building. So it has the building Ryan's in, walking, and then it's got the building we live in combined together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an eye-catching piece.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, Scott and Yvette Hill.
That's
Well-
one of Scott and Yvette Hill. I have to remark are phenomenal friends and parents, and very big on the Houston art scene. Sao Paulo, I want to say it's number 8. I can't see that very clearly. I think it's number 8. His international series for about the last 5 or 6 years have always had 11 pieces.
Well,
and so that's why we have preview sessions, and they come in view, and the Hills have been very supportive of that process.
Yeah.
time is running out, and I don't want to leave without visiting this particular piece of territory. You're not only business partners, but you're marital partners as well. And you may know the old Borscht Belt line about working in the family business. The good thing is you get to work with your family, and the bad thing is that you have to work with your family. So how's that working out for you guys?
Well, let me say this. We have an intense life. And very special and unique, and we get to learn about each other on such a high, fast level. Because I believe a lot of people, they don't have that ability. Then all of a sudden one day they're retired and they don't even know each other, or the kids grow up and they don't know who they're with. I know about Ryan. And so with the passion we have passionate agreements and disagreements. But at the end of the day, we're committed to each other. And the safety thought of that is to, no matter what, you're going to be together. That is kind of the whole idea about the program too, is we're never going to kick you out. You know, I don't want Ryan to kick me out. You know, I want us to work through things, because you become better when you walk through, when you have the residue, because you're going to go through everything in your life.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you rather do it with somebody and go, hey, remember 50 years ago we did this, than to do it with 5 different people? So I want to do it with Ryan. So that's our commitment, you know, or my side of it is, it's passionate, but I wouldn't want it to be dead. It's not dead.
And you have this lovely tradition of multiple wedding ceremonies.
That's true.
We do.
And you go through different locations, and
We do. We've now
we just
had,
saw some of your various photographs.
we've had 7 of them, starting with the best was here in Houston, was of course non-legal, just a commitment ceremony in 2007. But the following summer we went to Canada, to Toronto on the 4th of July, and made it legal. And you know, we didn't take that for granted. People in our community have not been allowed to actually go to the courthouse. And it was very romantic for us and very beautiful. And we decided, well, why don't we make this a tradition to go to states that support us? And we have a dream that we'll continue to do that until we'll have one more once it's finally the law of the land.
Ryan, 30 seconds. The legacy of John Ross Palmer.
I think will be escapism and his effort to defeat the stereotype of the struggling artist, his being a true maverick in the art world, anti-establishment, and being a success on his own terms.
Thank you. Thank you to our guests, artist John Ross Palmer and presario Ryan Lindsay. We hope that you've enjoyed our conversation this evening, and that maybe you've picked up a bit of insight or information along the way. For more information, we invite you to visit our website, www.lwvhouston.org. I'm Linda Cohn with the League of Women Voters. Happy Independence Day. Thanks for watching. Take good care, and we'll chat again soon. Thank you.